We're going to party like it's 1999 as we look at the last year of DC Comics from the 1990s. There's a lot more here than there was in 97 or 98. It's not all Batman. A lot of it is, but not all of it. Up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hey comic book community, this is Jim from Bronzeville Comics with another video and another DC 1990s video. We're going to do a costume change in the middle of this because I recorded this. It ended up being in two parts. The first part seems to be corrupted, so I had to redo it. So the second part is from yesterday and the first part from today. The miracles of editing. Just a reminder, we're getting close to 900 subs. Once we get past 900, we'll start talking about our 1,000 subscriber giveaway. So subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment on this video about this list. Do you have any of these books? Do you want any of these books? Did any of them surprise you? News, promoting King Kong 2 is coming on March 19th, and it's the first time I'll be selling at a show. That's going to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of books that I have to get organized in the next 3 months. So we're going to look at this list, and there was a lot more here in 1999 than the last couple of years. 97, 98 were pretty thin, but there's a lot of stuff here. Let's start right away at number 10 on the list, and that is DCU Heroes Secret Files #1, which is the first appearance of Courtney Whitmore, a character who has her own series on the CW. And one of these instances where you have a separation of the character appearing in their civilian identity and then the character becoming a superhero. I mean, you can go way back to the early Silver Age, the Man on Ant Hill with Hank Pym, and then the next time we see him, he becomes Ant-Man. We look at the Hawkeye series and how Echo had, like, kind of, you know, Daredevils 9, 10, and 11 are all key issues. We see that a lot recently. We also see a lot of times where there's a large separation in the character's first appearance, alter ego, first appearance in costume. And I think that's going to be the subject of another video, maybe even a collab video. Anyway, that book is a $200 book in a CGC 9.8. You could probably get it for under $10 raw. There were $250 sales this year in January and April, $150 sale in August, so there is a little volatility there, and a recent accepted offer on an eBay listing of $170. Moving up to number 9 on the list is JSA Secret Files #1, which is the first appearance of Kendra Saunders as Hawkgirl and the issue in which Nuklon becomes Atom Smasher. We did talk about this book in my Black Adam video that I did earlier this week. Atom Smasher is going to become be in the Black Adam movie that's coming out in July of 2022. So that's something to look out for. This is a book that in a CGC 9.8 is about $225. Probably get it in the $25 range for a raw book. The $225 sale is in November, which is the high sale. There was an accepted offer on a $200 listing in October. Number 8 on the list. Stars and Stripe #0. This is the first appearance of Stargirl, Courtney Whitmore. And this is the basis for the CW show Stargirl, in which Pat Dugan, the former Stripesy, who premiered in 1941 in the Golden Age, is her stepfather. And Jeff Johns created this character, created this book, and created the TV series. He's an executive producer on the TV series. And the Courtney Whitmore character is really close to his heart because the character was based on his sister, who he lost in a plane crash. And so he's really invested in this character. Stargirl is like my favorite CW DC show right now, or DC show in general. I like it even more than some of the stuff on HBO Max. It's so comic book accurate. It really understands the characters because Jeff Johns is involved. One of the writers on a number of the episodes is James Robinson, who wrote the Starman series in the 90s, wrote the Golden Age miniseries, and has written JSA. So they really do right by the characters. This is about a $260 book in a CGC 9.8. It's close to a $100 book raw. If you're lucky, you can get it for under $100. The high sale was in June of 2020 of $450. The more recent sales, $150 sale in November and a $250 sale in October. Again, the news of the show kind of boosted this quite a bit. Number 7 on the list, and this is the beginning of the list. It's a preview of what's to come. Batman Beyond number 2, another instance in which the character dons the costume. This is the first time in which Terry McGinnis dons the Batman or the Batman Beyond costume. It's a $289 book in a CGC 9.8, and you could probably get it for about $30 raw. There was a 9.8 sale in July of 2020 for, and then the more recent sales, there's a $280 sale in December and a $299 sale in November. And I think this does have room to grow because it's possible that we're going to see this property in a live action movie or TV series. Michael Keaton is reprising his role as Batman. He's about the age of the Batman in the Batman Beyond animated series. So there is a lot of potential. And this 6-issue miniseries, later in the year, an ongoing series started, but the 6-issue limited series, all 6 issues have value, which we'll talk about as we move up this list. Number 6 on the list is Batman 567, which is the first appearance of Cassandra Cain in her civilian identity. Later on, which is one of the honorable mentions for this year, she becomes the new Batgirl. Later, she becomes Orphan. This is a character that was in the Birds of Prey movie, and she's gone through, as we said, a couple of iterations in the comics, and I think it was really the movie that boosted this this book. It's a $312 book in a CGC 9.8, about $50 or so raw. There was a $350 sale in December. In November, there were sales between $250 and $315, and the high sale was a $700 sale back in August. Coming in at number 5 on our list is Batman Beyond number 3, which is the first full appearance of Blight, a villain from the animated series. That goes for about $313 in a CGC 9.8, about $20 to $25 raw. The most recent sale of a direct sale edition was $350 in October, a high sale of $468 in June, and in November a newsstand sold in a 9.8 for $440. Newsstands quite rare by 1999. Generally they're going to command a higher price, but there's very little sales data because they were so rare. So if you do see a newsstand of one of these books, it's probably going to be worth more than the direct edition in the same condition. Number 4 on the list, Batman Beyond number 6, the first appearance of Ink, a book that sells for about $500 in a CGC 9.8. You're probably going to have to pay at least $50 to get it raw. The high of $500 was in October. The previous high of $450 was in October of 2020. Coming in at number 3 on our list is Batman Harley Quinn number 1 with this classic Alex Ross cover. It's the first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity. Here with the Joker, that sells for about $664 in a CGC 9.8 and probably $300 to $400 raw. The high sale in August was $970 in a 9.8, and the most recent sale in December was $725. So Harley Quinn continues to be a huge character. Now, number 2 on the list was a book that surprised me. It's a weird book. It's Elseworlds 80-page giant, and it's a book that sells for about $738 in a CGC 9.8, more than $200 raw. And what makes this book unique is that it was recalled because there was a story in it where baby Clark Kent needed a babysitter. And evidently, little Clark Kent was quite the scamp. And he was giving the babysitter a hard time, and one of the things that he did was to hide in the microwave. And generally speaking, it's not a good idea to have a baby in the microwave. So DC recalled the issue. And because it's so rare, it has crazy sales. A 9.8 in October sold for $1,175. Later in the month for $520. The next high sale Other than that, 1175 was in September for $950, and there have been 2 sales of the book in a 10.0. I don't know if it's the same book or different books, but we're going back a while. In 2013, a 10.0 sold for $2,350, and in 2016 for $4,877. If it is the same book, seemed like a pretty good return on investment for whoever had that. Now, number 1 on our list, and should come as no surprise, is that number 1 on the list is Batman Beyond. Number 1, the first appearance of Terry McGinnis, not in costume. This is a book that sells for about $2,500 in a CGC 9.8, which makes it the second biggest DC book of the 1990s after Batman Adventures 12 with the first appearance of Harley Quinn. You're probably going to have to pay for at least $300 for a raw copy, high-grade raw copy. I have a copy around here somewhere that I got as part of a lot for like a whole lot for like $40. It's not high grade. It's not a 9.8, but it's more than $40. You have some wins. You have some losses. I do have some recent losses. Anyway, in December, there was a sale of $2,895, which is the second highest according to cover price. The high sale of $3,000 back in July, and there have also been recent sales of CGC 9.8 of $2,500 and $2,000. Now you have to be careful. There is a newsstand edition. Again, small sales numbers probably worth more than direct edition. There's a third printing. There's also a couple of giveaways. There's a Six Flags edition. Those tend to be not as big a price. You want to look for the first printing, either the direct edition or the newsstand. So just be careful as to which book you're looking at when you look at Batman Beyond. That Six Flags variant, let's call it, is, I think, fairly readily available. And it still is a nice book to have, but it should be a lot cheaper than the original printing. So, Batman dominated, animated series dominated. Let's take a look at the honorable mentions on our list. We're going to start the honorable mentions with Batman Beyond number 1. The ongoing series, which premiered at the end of 1999. That's about a $398 in a CGC 9.8. But the 2 9.8 sales were from back in 2018 of $398 and $377. Perhaps if this becomes a live action property, that book will be close to that again. There haven't really been any other recent sales of this book. The next one is a little bit of a story. DC, throughout the 90s, even starting in the 80s, have different imprints. They had Helix, ongoing Vertigo, which produced Sandman and Hellblazer and Swamp Thing, Paradox Press, and they did acquire the rights to Wildstorm. And one of the imprints under Wildstorm was America's Best Comics, which were comics written by the legendary writer Alan Moore. He created his own universe. And Jim Lee owned the company, owned Wildstorm, that was producing these America's Best Comics. Lee sold Wildstorm to DC in 1998. Not knowing that Alan Moore had basically, after Watchmen, said he would never work for DC again. Jim Lee didn't know that. He had a meeting with Moore, and essentially Moore agreed to continue the titles in respect to the artists that were working with him on these books. Another book that isn't that popular, that's part of this series, is Tom Strong, despite the fact that it had an Alex Ross cover for issue number 1. The book that makes the honorable mention is Promethea number 1, which had a sale in August of $268. The previous high sale was $145 back in 2018. In November, there was an accepted offer on a listing of $143. So this is a book that's probably worth a little bit north of $100 in a 9.8, but not a lot of sales data to really back that up. Essentially, what Moore eventually did with the entire line of characters, he's had an apocalyptic end and destroy the entire universe. Another book, and we're going back to animated stuff, is Cartoon Network Starring. Issue number 1 is the first appearance of the Powerpuff Girls. There was one 9.8 sale in August of 2020 for $249. Evidently, there's a live-action movie that's been filming, starring, among others, Dove Cameron. I'm not really familiar with the Powerpuff Girls, but this is a book that could have some legs to it if that property takes off. Issue number 2 is also a little bit, not quite at this level, but it's the first comic book appearance of Johnny Bravo. The other 2 issues that did not make the top 10, Batman Beyond number 4 and 5, also make this list. Number 5 is a little bit pricier. It went for $279 in May, but that was May when the things went crazy. Average sale about $183 and 9.8. Not a lot of sales to back that up, but people probably want the entire set, so 4 and 5 kind of go for the ride with the other books. It's a 6-issue limited series, so it is collectible, but very pricey. Also, in the animated vein, Batman Gotham Adventures number 10, classic Harley Quinn cover, the most recent sale of $190 in a CGC 9.8 in November. Birds of Prey number 1, the first ongoing series with the Birds of Prey, had a sale in October of $130 and a 9.6 sale of $88 in November. If we kind of, for books in this era, use a 2-to-1 ratio, an $88 book in 9.6 would translate to about $176 in a 9.8. So figure that's about $1.25 to $1.50 for a 9.8 for Birds of Prey number 1. But the big book from Birds of Prey at this stage is issue number 8, which has this classic cover with Nightwing and Oracle on the trapeze, and it's the first kiss in comic books between Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon. There was sales of $179 in October and $130 in November. Not quite enough to make the top 10 list. Batman number 570 had a $102 sale in November and a high of $170 in May. It's a classic Joker cover, and it's the second appearance of Harley Quinn in continuity, the first appearance of her in the Batman comic book. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen number 1, which was written by Alan Moore for America's Best Comics, later adapted into a film. Did have a high sale of $166 in April and the most recent sale of $123 in October. Also in October, issue number 3 of that series sold for $115 in a CGC 9.8. The movie was not particularly well received, but this is a series that does still have some value. Batman Shadow of the Bat number 83 sold for $225 in July. All sales earlier in 2020 at around $100. This is where Helena Bertinelli, who had been the Huntress, becomes Batgirl, because everybody's been Batgirl. You can probably get that raw for about $10 to $15. Wonder Woman number 150, this classic Adam Hughes cover. We know how popular Adam Hughes covers are. That had a sale in July of $110 in the CGC 9.8. You probably have to pay for about $20 for it raw. Preacher number 51 had a recent sale in January of $100, $105 back in August of 2020. There is a preview of the Vertigo series 100 Bullets in there. Batman number 563 has a classic Joker cover by J. Scott Campbell. 2 9.8 sales this year in May and March, both for $100, $98 sale in October. Batman Gotham Adventures number 14, classic Harley cover, CGC about 9.8, about $80. Wonder Woman 141, also a Adam Hughes cover, also CGC about $80. Detective Comics 737 is the third appearance of Harley Quinn in continuity, high of $135 in April of 2019, I believe, and October 17 is a little bit south of $100 now. Batman Legends of the Dark Knight number 120 is the first appearance of Cassandra Cain as Batgirl. Cassandra Cain's first appearance out of uniform made our top 10 list. This, her first appearance of Batgirl, makes the honorable mention. Again, she was in the Birds of Prey movie, which accounts for a sale of $555 in August of 2018 and $350 in November of the same year. Basically, the most recent sale we have on a 9.8 is an accepted offer on a listing of $100 in September. Lobo 61 had one sale of $133, and 64 had a sale in October on an accepted offer on a listing of $275. 64 was the final issue of the book. Print run was down to about 12,000 at the time. Looney Tunes number 49. No 9.8 sales, but raw sales this year of $70, $44, and $23. This Pepe Le Pew cover. Some controversy after Pepe Le Pew was not, I believe, in the latest Space Jam movie because he is a little cringy in terms of how he doesn't leave that cat alone. So People were clamoring for Pepe Le Pew. And then the final issue of Sandman Mystery Theater, issue number 70, low print run, raw sales in the $40+ range in the last several months. And another book that makes our honorable mention is Batman Dark Victory number 1. It's a follow-up to The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. It could see some boost when the Batman movie by Matt Reeves comes out next year. So that is a chock-full DC 1999 list. Next week, we're going to go back to 1990 and do Marvel. So 10 weeks of Marvel 1990s craziness. Digging through those long boxes. There's stuff in there if you can find it. In the meantime, I did a video on some Black Adam key issues. That movie's coming out in June, and we did see one of those issues in 1999. And then this was what happened when I went to an estate sale last weekend. You can take a look at those videos. Till next time, guys, I do have a pretty cool haul coming up on the next video. And until then, enjoy your comics.